Hosted by Dr. Alex G. on behalf of Serve Wisconsin AmeriCorps, Transform Your Leadership invites you as an AmeriCorps member to engage your own journey and transformation as you become leaders who enrich lives and communities. Now here's Dr. G.
Hey, AmeriCorps Serve Wisconsin members. I'm really excited about the next 2 episodes that I'm dropping. I really am hoping that the first 3 episodes have been helpful. They've given you some context and some things to think about. Now, hopefully, you're settling into your roles at your organizations or companies, and you're learning your way around the block, and you're finding out how to use the best of you and your tools to really be of service to the community. Again, I'm proud of you and your choice to do this kind of work. In the 4th episode, I'm talking about self-care. It's one of those words that's kind of tossed around. I don't know how much we really understand it, and I probably doubt that we even know how to practice it. And so I want to talk about ways of doing that. And then in our 5th episode, I'm going to talk a little bit about how do we work within our context when we feel that it's not a great fit, or maybe we are more woke than some of our supervisors and coworkers. How do we maintain our sense of centeredness and effectiveness in an organization that might talk about diversity and talk about empowerment, but might not be taking the right kinds of steps? So that's what we're going to be doing in these next 2 episodes. So episode number 4, caring for yourself as a leader. This is tough. And so I hope to give you some concepts to consider, some ideas to ponder as you think about keeping yourself around for the long haul. I'm a gadget junkie. Anyone who knows me on a personal level, they know that I've always loved toys and gadgets. My friends call me, Inspector Gadget and all these things. And so when my computer or tablet or smartphone or my watch, if any of them is not working well, I'll often take it in for service. And one of the first questions will be, have you restarted the device? If you work on computers, particularly if you're a Mac person like I am, you get that little color wheel that's spinning, that's letting you know something's not computing, something's locked up. And for me, that's a sign that something is going wrong. And in the process of shutting your device down and restarting it, it has a way of realigning itself, rebooting itself, and it seems to come back ready for action. I think that really mimics our lives and what they're like. You can sit there staring at the color wheel. It is a very beautiful wheel, but you can shortcut that by rebooting, because your system can't always give you the information and the data and the images you want while trying to repair itself in the background. So you let it rest by shutting down. Same thing with sleep and rest. It's really a way of rebooting ourselves. And so I want to talk about what that reboot looks like. I want to really challenge some myths that make us think, well, I can't reboot, I can't shut down. I want you to know that it's important for you to take care of you. Otherwise, you won't be around for the long haul. And this kind of work that we do will cause your color wheel to spin. And I know this. So there's guilt and anxiety over taking off time to rest, particularly when those you're serving, those we serve, don't have that luxury to do the same thing. So many of us, out of guilt, will not take care of ourselves, will not reboot, will not restart. But keep this in mind. When you do model self-care, something that often poverty or anxiety or stress life can steal from individuals, when you model it, you help people to understand that the level at which they operate under stress and fear cannot be maintained. And so you've got to just rest up sometime just to make yourself stronger for the battle or for the issue that you've got to deal with. I can't remember what public speaker said this or what writer or what some well-known figure said, but they mentioned things tend to look better in the morning. So if you're up late at night stressing over something, trying to work something out, sometimes you just got to go to bed. You just got to rest. Let your system reboot, because things have a way of looking better in the morning. And so we need to understand that if we don't reboot, we're stalled, we're not fresh, and we really can't motivate people. We can't be as in tune to them as we want to be. So I just really want to stress that taking care of yourself, it's not a selfish act. It's really a selfless act, because you need to do it in order to really be present. And the guilt and the anxiety that won't let us rest, it only weakens us, and it will pay dividends on our health over time if we don't take time to do this. And so how do you care for yourself when you're supposed to care so much for others and for their issues? What you're doing, what you're keeping in mind is that you get better ideas when you're resting. You have better energy when you're resting. And you're not allowing the stress from the situation you're serving in or the stress from the individuals who you're around to really wear you down. Because in this kind of work, because it's meaningful, I mean, this was a choice for you to decide to do this kind of work. You're not just sitting in a room with a computer by yourself. You're engaged with people at a very high level of stress and anxiety and fear and concern. People are trying to figure out where their next meals are coming from, if their children are on the right track, if they're living in the right communities, if their children will be subjects of violence. And so we absorb this day in and day out. And when we're young and we feel invincible, we don't think that this work will take its toll on us, but it does. Stress that is unrelieved can have an impact on hypertension, on high blood sugar levels, which leads to diabetes. When there's stress inside your body that is not released through exercise and meditation, it has a way of hiding in your body and could lead to disease like cancer. And so what's happening is when we don't take care of ourselves and we just keep going and going and going, we're counting all the people we're serving, all the hours that we're putting in, but we don't understand the hours that we're really taking away from our lives. I'm a frequent flyer. Work and giving speeches often has a way of taking me around the country, around the globe. And there's something that the flight attendants always say at the beginning of the flight, the part where they're opening the card and they're telling you, please follow along with us. And they show you where the emergency exits are and what you do in the case of emergency water landing, in the unlikely event of an emergency water landing. Yeah, that part always gets me. But they say in the event that the oxygen should change in the cabin and the pressure changes, an oxygen mask will drop. But it says if you're traveling with a small child or person in need of extra attention or care, secure your mask first. Now, when I first heard that years ago, I thought, well, that's really crazy. If I'm traveling with my daughter, I'm going to secure her first because she won't know what to do. But their thinking is this: as a parent, as a caregiver, you have a greater chance of helping someone else if you're clear, focused, and safe. But if you spend all of your attention trying to secure something, a mask, say, for someone else, and then you pass out, you become lightheaded, you can't check in on that other person. You cannot see how they're doing. You can't check their vitals. And so although that sounds like it's counterproductive or counterintuitive for a parent, because we want to protect our children first. We want to push them behind us when an animal or a speeding car is coming at us. We want to put ourselves between them and harm's way. But the announcement is, and I imagine there's got to be some science behind this, there's got to be some data behind this, that if the adult will just take a moment to secure their mask, because we probably know how to do it and can figure it out. And once we figured it out on our faces, we know how to make sure that it's fitting right on the person who we're with. And so I think that has great application to what it is that we're talking about. So we've got to be able to understand that in taking care of ourselves, it positions us to help others. There's this concept that I heard in one of my leadership training sessions, and they use the word HALT, and it's an acronym, HALT, that if you are hurt, if you are angry, if you are lonely, you're just feeling very, very isolated, or if you're tired, you need to stop and reboot, because what you're going to do is be in a position where your help is going to hurt someone. You're going to snap. You're going to say something you didn't mean to say. You're going to miss appointments. You're going to drop the ball. You're going to miss assignments. But because we think it is so important to show up, we don't put ourselves in a position of readiness in order to show up. Showing up is more than just a physical presence. It's being sharp and it's being alert. And present isn't just in space. It means that you are alert and in tune to the space. Have you ever been driving and you know that you're sleepy and it's late at night and you look up and you've gone 10 miles and you don't remember a single mile or mile marker or exit? Were you sleep driving? Were you dozing? Like, what state of mind were you in that you were not aware of your environment? You were there for those 10 miles, but you don't remember them. And so this is really, really important. Or if you're trying to watch a television program, like I often do, and if we watch something too late, I'll doze off. My daughter gets mad at me. And you wake up and all of a sudden you think you've been watching a show because your eyelids are partly open, but you realize you don't know the plot. You don't know what's going on. You don't know why the police are showing up. You don't know why someone is confessing to a crime. Although you don't remember sleeping, you don't remember the plot of the movie either because you weren't really present. You were there physically, but you were not engaged. You were not in tune. Your sensors weren't working. You weren't processing the plot. And so you missed it. You missed it. And so I want you just to think for a moment and just ask, And again, you're new to these roles and positions. And so this is not something that you may necessarily need to worry about the first month or two into your assignment. But 6 months, 8 months, a year into your assignments, I want you to watch for these signs. If you're hurt, and so in other places of your life, maybe in your workplace, things are injuring you, your own issues of whatever they may be, they keep coming up because you're not taking the time to talk to a therapist, to get a life coach, to read a book, to really relieve yourself from some of that pressure. When you find that work or situations at work are triggering you, you've got to watch and manage your own hurt, your own pain. If you're angry, not necessarily at your supervisor or at those you're serving, but just pain and depravity in life has somehow robbed your soul and you feel as if, I'm just angry. I'm overreacting to things. That shouldn't have bothered me that way. But that anger is just building up. You've got to check it. You've got to talk about it. You've got to find a way to laugh. You've got to watch something that's funny. You got to go for a walk. But that anger will be hurtful, not just to you and others. If you're lonely, if the work that you do keeps you so busy that you don't have a social life, you don't have friends, you don't have people to get you out of the fix-it mode. If you don't have people who can do this and you're on an island, you'll suffer greatly. You will suffer greatly. And if you're trying to provide work and community and support for people, but you find that you're extremely lonely, you have no one to talk to, process things with, rejuvenate you, encourage you, walk with you, you throw yourself into work, or you begin to feel sorry for yourself, or you just begin just to unravel and deconstruct. You don't want to do that. And the T is just tired. There's so much work, another day, another dollar. I've got to write reports. I've got to talk to families. I've got to go to court with them. I've got to find backpacks. I've got to create tutoring programs. If you're so tired, and we talked about this when you're trying to drive or watch a movie, you're not alert. You're not in tune. People will be telling you important information and you won't remember it. You won't keep up on your emails. You won't return your messages. So, again, the word is HALT. It's an acronym of when you are hurt, when you are angry, when you are lonely, or when you are tired. When these things are happening, you just need to pause, name them, and find some way to offset the impact of the pain, of the anger, of the loneliness, and of the tiredness. If you don't secure your mask, if you don't take care of these issues, you are not in a position to help other people. It just doesn't work. You've got to do this in order to help and support other folks. So let's talk about what this looks like now. It means taking time off when you have it. You don't have a 7-day work schedule, even though you may go to work 7 days, because that is illegal. AmeriCorps is not allowed to hire you to work 7 days. And so you do have time off. But do you know how many people don't take their time off? And you may be fortunate enough to be in an organization that will allow you to roll that time over, but a lot of places won't. I mean, the company that I started, my nonprofit Nehemiah, allows you to roll over 1 week, but you can't just roll over everything. That just goes away. That's money that's a part of your benefit. You can be paid to be away. And so you've got to be able to take time off and the days off, because that's really, really important. So let's just talk just nuts and bolts about this, from the sublime to the ridiculous. What if I have a limited income, and if you're working in a space where you all are, it may be limited. You got to be really creative. And keep in mind that what we call limited pay in most parts of the world is considered extravagant. And so it's really about rebooting. It's really about that color wheel and the restart, and not being at some posh hotel or spa downtown Chicago or Miami where you can't relax because you're trying to figure out, how am I going to pay this off when I get back? But it really is about what refreshes you. So one of the things that we do in our family are staycations. And so you've got things like Priceline and other stuff. Sometimes these places are just trying to fill a room for a night. And sometimes rooms could go for as low as $50. I'm not trying to say that that's a little amount of money, but I mean, there are deals that are around where you can just stay in places like that. The other thing is, we often become enamored or in love with other cities, but there's a part of our own city that we don't know. So I live in Madison, Wisconsin. So I love going to New York City. I love going to Los Angeles, San Diego, Seattle. I love Milwaukee. I love getting to these large cities. Did I say Chicago? That's my birthplace. I love Chicago. But when I walk around downtown Madison, I find eateries and grocery shops and hangouts for foodies and bookshops and coffee shops. I didn't even know these places existed because there's so much turnover and there's new business. We have a beautiful state capital. I think it rivals any state capital in this country, but it's right in the center of our community. And I'm usually down there once a year for like a Martin Luther King Jr. Day award ceremony. And I walk through it, but it's like a gallery. The dome is beautiful. They have all this rich marble, but just walking through it and seeing the opulence and the beauty and taking time to read the plaques. This is in commemoration of, or this commemorates this act that was passed, this law that was passed. You walk into the Supreme Court chambers, and there are times where you can do this. Again, it's in my community. I don't have to waste gas to drive away, but I can do that. We have something that's really huge that's called Farmers Market. We have either the oldest or the largest farmers market in the world. I forget which of the two it is. But hundreds of vendors are downtown from summer through fall. And it's like a square mile. And people will just park downtown and walk around. And there are bakery items and vegetables and honey and plants and flowers. It doesn't cost anything to walk around it. You just have to pay for the parking. And the food is reasonable. And people have children in their wagons and they're putting produce in it. It's just sort of a Wisconsin thing, a Madison thing to do. You may not have the resources or may not be able to spend the resources to, say, take a family of 3 or 4 to, say, a Badger game or a Brewers game or a professional game. But on Tuesday nights, most nice movie theaters are only $5. You're going to pay that for a Happy Meal, and you pay that for your venti latte. You pay it. You find a way to drop the $5. Go see a good movie. Sit in a dark theater. Recline in the chair. Splurge on some popcorn. Sneak your own candy in. Do some things to really relax and chill. Again, it doesn't take a whole lot of money. But by the time we finish arguing what we don't have money for, we have just wasted valuable time, which is money. And we could have just gone to a movie or a farmer's market or for a walk. Again, I'm just using my own context. If you're in a beautiful city, walk around downtown. We have 4 lakes. In that the city of Madison is surrounded by, beautiful isthmus. You can walk for miles. There are places you can walk and see both lakes. There's no excuse. There's no excuse for avoiding cheap or affordable getaways. Now, that's not the same as a 3-day cruise or 7-day cruise or an all-inclusive in the Caribbean. Then you know what? Get a part-time job. Drive for Uber. Do something in the evening or weekends from time to time. Put a little money away. Find a way to budget. Live in a smaller place. Eat out less. Eat more ramen noodles. Put money away. Because I think those larger vacations, if you can afford it, say every 2 or 3 years, are really worth every penny. Don't go in debt doing that because that'll give you more stress. But find a way to put those dollars away. Put them in a savings account. Don't be as extravagant. And the holidays, manage your money because you got to see that that's really, really important to you. It's really important to you. And then find friends who love, if you're able to, who love to get away and hang out as well. There are times I just like to have a change of scenery. And so, for the cost of gassing up my car, I might just drive to Lake Michigan or drive to Chicago or drive around Milwaukee or take a drive to St. Louis. Just to see a different scenery, maybe have food in a different place. It's not overly expensive, but it detaches me from my environment. It shuts me off from the issues that I'm constantly dealing with. And what I find is sometimes when I do those half-day getaways, those drives, those staycations, I feel like I've been away for 3-4 days or a week. And so it's just sort of like a mental trick that you do to yourself to let your body and your mind think that you've been away longer than you have, because you have completely disconnected from the things that bring stress to you. Now, when you do disconnect. You cannot be texting to clients and people you're serving on your day off. You cannot be responding to work emails on your day off. You cannot be reading reports on your day off. Your day off does not mean that you're merely not in the office. It means you're not on the clock. Now, I understand if an emergency comes up, you got to respond to it. I'm a community leader. If there's a major event that takes place in our city, a catastrophe, a shooting, an untimely death, if someone is in a car accident from our congregation and it requires immediate visit at the hospital, I understand that sometimes your time off is cut short, but then you find a way to make it up. If you know that you got to be in on Saturday, then you got to find a way to leave early or go in late on another day. Because if you don't take care of you, if you don't secure your mask, you're not going to be effective. And it's not because you don't care. It's because you do not have the physical and the emotional stamina to do this. And so when it comes to time away to care for yourself, please don't even come at me with what you can't afford. Go for a walk. If you can't afford a bike or don't have a bike, rent one. They have these stations, in Madison. I think it's Citibank that does it. And, come on, it might be a little steep, but it's cheaper than going out and buying a bike. Come on, you live in a beautiful place. You're among beautiful people. You're serving in your community because you think it deserves the very best, but it deserves you being at your very best as well. So this means have fun. Well, how do I do that? Plan for it. You plan for work. You plan for visits. You plan for writing reports. You plan for conferences, plan for fun. Look at your schedule and say, you know what? We're going to be at this conference and my company's paying for me to be there. But I have a cousin who lives there, an old college roommate, or there's a coffee shop or an internet bar or a cigar bar that's in that community that I've always wanted to check out. Stay an extra day, crash with some friends, do Airbnb. Take care of you. Have fun. Because if life is only about work, you will crash, you will burn. And then who's going to put the oxygen mask on the little children, on the folks in your community, the people you're helping to vote and work and become educated and employed? Who's going to help them? You're there, but you've got to be there. Have fun. Have boundaries. Have boundaries. What does that mean? That means not giving people access to all of you. Everyone can't have the freedom of calling you at 8 o'clock at night, because if you tell everyone they can, many people will. And you know what? It's not as if you can't be reached during an emergency, but if you make yourself so accessible, the folks you're serving will not necessarily utilize their own relational capital to find other people to call. There are some people they can call who have not been doing that all day. I have office hours as a pastor. I have office hours as a community leader. And if there's a crisis, by all means, people reach out to me. But I can't have everyone in my congregation and everyone I serve calling me at 10 o'clock at night because they have no one to talk to, or they had a bad dream, or they're feeling lonely, or they're thinking about something that happened in the news, because I can't handle that for 200, 300, 400 people. I can't do it. I've got a family. I've got a wife. I've got a child. I've got a mother with Alzheimer's whose care I'm responsible for. I have relatives that I want to build relationships with. And I have friends that I want to connect with because they refresh me, they entertain me, and they remind me that I am more than my work, but that I am a guy that wants to hang out, have fun, laugh, have good food, see good sights, and enjoy life. That balance is so, so important. It's invaluable, but we have to make it a priority because others won't do it for us. If you don't set up good boundaries, it's very possible that your employers can say to you, well, we've got this event on this Saturday, and I know that's typically your day off. You're okay to negotiate and say, well, can I have another day off? Or, sometimes it's a situation where you're salaried, and you got to do that sometimes. But salaried folks, you know what? We work some nights, we work some evenings, but there's some days we take off to go to our child's play or to do something. It's give and it's take. But you want to set good boundaries because you just don't want people to think you are always on. You are not an EMT. You are not a doctor on call. You are not God. You are not on all the time. So take yourself off. Turn that phone off. Turn the email off. Turn the notification off. Turn those things off so that you have really good boundaries. If you got office hours, don't have people come by your home to meet with you because they didn't come to your office because something happened or they had to work or had to go visit someone. Don't let the lack of planning for someone else cause stress for you. Now, again, use wisdom, friends. Use wisdom. There's time and there's space where you got to respond. This is a bona fide or sure crisis. And it means you get out of your bed, you help someone. Someone's been hurt, someone's going to be hurt, someone's threatening suicide. There are times at which you do that. But boundaries are really, really important. Journal. That's one way to reflect. Journal is one way of getting stuff out. You're putting your voice on paper. I'd say that that's really, really important. And because if you're in this kind of work, the kind of work that we are in, there are incredible, incredible interactions that happen all the time. And you know what I like to do? I like to reflect on the stories of the people whose lives have been changed by the work of our organizations. Because on days when the funding is not there, when we have staff turnover, when we feel that we don't have enough staff, I need to rehearse those great stories. Remember Joe and how he turned his life around. Remember Tiffany and how she got her children back and she got a house and she created a home-based business. When we begin to recount these stories, they remind us of why we're in this work. Because the urgency, the tyranny of the urgent, because of the pressure of get it done now, the report now, the crisis now, the phone call now, the email now, we got to have space. We got to really, really have space. And journaling is not just something we did in high school English class because we want to get a credit. There's something about getting your thoughts, your insights, your anger, your frustration out of you onto paper. And listen, you're creative. Some of you can do audio journaling. I'm sure that there are apps that allow you to say, hey, this is me and this is what I'm feeling and thinking today. Here's where I am. Whatever the mode, some people will type it into their computers. Others will do video journals. Just take the time to dump the stuff you're thinking and feeling. Some people will journal right before they go to bed because they don't want to go to bed with all the stuff that's in their heads. And so you want to journal about what crises did I stare in the face and not back down from it? Who did I encourage today? Who encouraged me today? Whose personal story of triumph spoke to me today? Who did I wrong today? Who did I ignore today? Who did I not thank today? Because that can allow you to take it off your mind, go to sleep, but then you can get up the next day and make those things right. Many of them can be made right. The other piece is reflection. One of the greatest tools I've learned in my doctoral program was to reflect on my leadership style, mistakes I made, things I ignored, things I forgot, things I promised that I didn't deliver on, the theory behind what I did. What are the things that I do that really, really work? And what's the principle behind it? What are the things that I do and they never work, but I continue to do it because it's easy and knee-jerk, but the principle behind it is not strong or such that it'll ever give fruit? Reflection means looking back on something that has happened, to look at something a second time, to focus in on it, to ask yourself, what did I learn? What did I drop? What did I do? Who am I becoming? What did I avoid? What did I walk into? Because again, that perspective, that reflection allows you to re-engage that situation differently. If you touched the stove while it was hot, you're going to be extra cautious when you walk by that stove. If you know that there's a place in your carpet where there's a nail, and if you hit it just right, you'll cut your foot. You're going to stop when you get to that place in the carpet. You're going to either say, I need my house shoes, or I need my regular shoes, or I'm going to walk through another room or go another way. But when you've experienced something in an area and it did not give you the kind of response you wanted, you avoided it. But if there's a route home and you know it's right by a bakery and you love getting that swift of sweet potato pie or cookies or cake, you may go out of your way to walk that path because you know that something happens in that route that makes you happy or reminds you of someone in your family who you loved, who cooked food for you that you loved. When you reflect, it gives you a chance to re-engage a scenario in a different way. And so if you know that this methodology doesn't work, then stop doing it. If you know you get better results when you do this other thing, then do it. But reflection allows you to take a look at that. Now, reflection and journaling can happen at the same time. Journaling can really be just, this is what has happened, and you're just putting it down on paper. The reflection part is to write down what actually happened and then say, how did I feel when that took place? How did my coworkers feel? How did my daughter feel? How did my mother feel? How did my father feel? How did my spouse feel? Reflection is really giving interpretation and background and commentary to the event that you're looking back at. And so I really would encourage journaling and reflection together, because that's important. Another question that I hear is, so what do you do when your job and context feels like it necessitates a lack of good taking care of yourself? That's the time that you get a new job. Listen, you all, this is work. This is not slavery. This is not modern day slavery. You don't have to stay in places that demean you, that weaken you, that tear you apart. But make sure that you are not laying yourself down on the ground and then getting mad because people are stepping on you. So what I mean is, we teach people how to treat us. Now, if it's a true situation that the job and context does not support or necessitate a lack of good taking care of yourself, you talk to the supervisor. So, I mean, if people are telling you, no, you can't take vacation, or, well, you got vacation, but you've got to be on call. I mean, those are things you've got to say, show me the HR policy, the human resource policy. I don't think that that's supposed to work that way. Or if you have questions about how you log your time off, talk to the person in HR, the person who's in charge of human resources, because you want to know your rights. But what I'm really saying is, don't make yourself available. Don't tell your supervisors, yeah, I can talk anytime, day or night, or, yeah, if something comes up, call me at home. All I'm going to be doing is watching Netflix. If you're opening that door, then you cannot complain, well, this job doesn't allow me to take care of myself. Taking care of yourself means you bring all of you to work for the proverbial 8 hours, 9 hours. When you punch that clock or you time out, you're on your time. You need to be available to yourself, your body, your lungs, your mind, your own mental health. You need to be in a park, in a gym, walking with some friends, catching a movie, watching television, watching a sunset. But make sure that that situation is not one that you set up or created or encouraged. Now, if folks are constantly calling you every night, you don't have to pick up. There's a do not disturb function on your phone. In the old days, you just take the phone off the hook. You guys don't have hooks, so you don't probably know what I mean. But you put do not disturb on. But protect yourself. Don't make yourself available. Don't make yourselves accessible and then get mad because no one's protecting your boundaries. There used to be a little sign that people would put on stores, on a general store door, like during the middle of the day, and it would say, "Gone fishing." And that meant that the owner ran a tool shop, a auto repair shop, a sewing business, a sandwich shop. But there would be certain days, like on a Friday afternoon when the fishing is good, and there'd be this little sign. Google it. Just Google "gone fishing" sign. And they would put it on the door. So when they'd come up, they'd say, "Oh, yeah, Bob's out there fishing for the catfish," or we know it's crappie season, or we know it's bass season, trout season, walleye season. But it was a way of communicating to people, don't bother me. Don't look for me. Don't text me. Don't think about me. Don't message me. Don't fax me. I'm going fishing. You have the right to do that, because you are not merely an employee. You are a person with needs. Speaking of going fishing, I forgot to add that earlier. That's a great thing to do that doesn't cost a lot of money. You just have to buy bait or find a way to put dish detergent down your backyard and hose it down before sunset. Come back with a flashlight and you have all the night crawlers you need for weeks and weeks and weeks. So if you don't have the resources or don't want to spend the resources to go buy live bait, you take a bottle of cheap dish detergent, just spray it on the ground or a particular area in your yard, hose it down until you see the suds. It'll force the earthworms out, the night crawlers out. Come back at night with a coffee can or a jar and a flashlight, some gloves if you're squeamish, and just grab those night crawlers and put them in a jar. That's what we used to do before going fishing for the big fish. Or garden. Seeds are inexpensive. And if you know someone in your neighborhood who has a beautiful lawn or beautiful flowers, let me tell you, gardeners love telling people how to garden. Fishermen, fisherwomen, fisher people love telling people, well, the carp are fishing right down by the dam, or if you go up, you can catch some trout, or if you go over here, there's some largemouth bass. Hey, what'd you catch today? What are you fishing with? Are you using a lure? Fishers like giving pointers. There's so many things that you can do to relax in your own environment. Folks who are coffee connoisseurs, here, taste this coffee, taste this blend. You ought to roast your own. You ought to do this. If you do this and put this concoction together, that you can make the coffee bean sweeter or less acidic. Listen, there are all of these things that you can do that are just so inexpensive. You can go to a new city and look under something like Airbnb, which is not just for housing, but experiences. There are people in cities that will say, we'll take you on a walking tour, a kayaking tour, a swimming tour, a biking tour. There's so many things that you can do, and you don't have to do them alone. But we need you to have boundaries. We need you to journal. We need you to reflect. And you can reflect by journaling. I already said that. But you can reflect while fishing. You can also nap while fishing. You can reflect while gardening, while weeding. There's something very therapeutic about putting seeds in the ground and then seeing a flower bloom, or replanting them, or planting vegetables and having them at your table. Those are things that remind you that life is cyclical, that if you invest, good stuff comes. And if you protect the seed and pull the weeds or distractions, it'll help the seed to be more productive, to bring, a greater crop that can, you can invite friends over. Hey, I just grew these tomatoes. Or you can go to your neighbors and say, hey, I grew these tomatoes. Do you want to have any for your salad? There are things that we can do that's helpful. In the winter, go ice skating. Come on, you can find cheap skates at Goodwill, online, or borrow them. If you're only going to do it once a year, don't go buy, these, Olympic skates. Have some fun. Go to a store and get an $8 sled or toboggan or something that's plastic and slippery, and find the steepest hill you can handle, and dress warmly and go down those hills and try not to take out other people's children. Do stuff to really, really enjoy. Life is good. And when we have health and good perspective, physical health and mental health, when we can be clear and present, we can be more appreciative of our environment. And it helps us to not serve out of a grudge, because when you do that, you're not really happy. And so if you're in a job context and your supervisors and folks are not encouraging you to take good care of yourself, and they say, well, we need you to really be here all the time. Do you really need that day off? You need to let your effectiveness speak for you. Well, you've kept me here for the last year because my reports are impeccable. My client services track record is fantastic. We see people getting better. Point to the effectiveness of your work, but then also say, do you know I'm able to be so effective? Because I have boundaries, because I journal, because I reflect, because I catch night crawlers and I go fishing on Saturday mornings, because I turn my phone off, because I don't take work home. Begin to explain, this is why I'm so effective at work, because I am effective away from work. If you are ineffective away from work, you will become ineffective at work. So become effective, very effective at journaling, at finding a hobby, at having some fun, at moving and getting your blood circulating. Have fun doing that, because it's really, really important. So I think I'll just wrap up with this question, this reflection. So what does all of this have to do with my becoming a better leader? Or how does this make us a real strong transformational leader? And really, I think I've answered this already. You can't help others unless you allow the rest that you need to regenerate you. And you can't be helpful if the work is destroying you, because you'll begin to dread the work and resent the people. And then when you do, you're dangerous. There's nothing sadder than a server who does not want to be around your food, than a medical professional that does not want to be around your sickness, than a person who wants nothing more than to be away from you. You love it when someone opens the door, when they smile, when they say, how can I take your order? Or have a seat right here? Or Would you like, a cup of coffee? Or, hey, why don't you put your feet up? We feel good when people feel good and they work out of a place of health and not of a place of necessity. Transformational leadership does not mean you have a savior complex. Being a transformational leader does not mean that you can fix everything and everyone around you. But it means that part of the work makes you better, and it makes the individuals that you work with better. And if the work diminishes us, then we are not transformational leaders. We are very transactional leaders. We are working for an attaboy, attagirl, accolade, a raise, or something. But if the work is destroying us, our motives are not right. We're trying to heal ourselves by healing others. We're trying to help ourselves by helping others. And the people we're serving are no longer our focus. A transformational leader wants the environment to be better. It wants the individuals that they work with to be better. And the work of transformational leaders should continually transform that leader into a person who's more reflective, a person who's more intuitive, a person who is healthy, a person who is self-aware and authentic. Transformational leadership is about casting a vision and helping people come into the best person that they can become as they help others. That means if you are not becoming a better person in the course of your work, you're either in the wrong job or you're not the person you say or think you are. So by that, I mean, take the time to reboot. The color wheel is spinning. When you see that happen, when you see that happening, you snap. You snap on your pet, you snap on your child. You're like, wait, something's not wrong. This wheel is spinning. Begin to understand what you need to do to stop that spinning. What does it mean to reboot? Come on, you, or you'll discover you. Do what it takes to reboot it. When I reboot my computer, I know where the power button is. I know where the restart function is. I know how to restart my phone. So when it's about to go there and it's frozen, I know what to do. When you're frozen, you know what to do, or you need to learn what to do. And remember, when you are hurt, when you are angry, when you are lonely, and when you're tired, again, that acronym is HALT. You got to stop. You got a spinning wheel that's going on. You got a disaster that's about to happen. And you're about to say and do some things you're going to regret that you did and you said. So when you see those signs, take note. A transformational leader is self-aware. Because if you don't catch that it is your hurt, your anger, your loneliness, or your tiredness, you will blame somebody else. And transformational leaders do not play the blame game. They believe that everything goes back up to leadership, transformational leadership. And so the transformational leader will look at themselves. So this line of thinking, this lesson is important. It took me years and years to really understand it. And I'm trying to pass this on to you as young leaders so that you build space and rhythms of self-care. Find out what's fun. Find out what you enjoy. If you're paying off student loans and you've got new work and you're in new relationships and maybe you have children, responsibility can just choke you out. And so before you get all of those responsibilities, find your rhythms. Find a fishing rod. Find a shovel. Find a garden plot. Find something, draw, needlepoint, paint, sing, rap, write, produce, edit, make videos, but do something that really gets you in touch with your creative side that has a way of really, really refreshing you. And do it in a way that's fun. Don't just jump to doing hobbies because you can make money. Wow, if I edit, I can sell. If I plant, I can sell. That might come down the road, but just recreate for the sake of recreating. And I know that you will benefit from that. I know that you will really, really appreciate that. And you're taking care of yourself. Your resting reminds you that you're human, but it also reminds those that you serve that you are human, which means you have limitations. And so when people realize that you get tired too, that you have a life, and for your career, you serve others, but that you've got a life that you want to invest in, you are modeling that. And people will say, you know what, when I grow up, I want to take time off for family. I want to take staycations. I want to go for drives. I want to protect my family time the way this person protected their family time. When I first came into roles of leadership, like at our church, my wife and I were newlyweds. We both worked at demanding jobs. I was bivocational, which meant that I worked at the University of Wisconsin and I pastored a church. But the whole church knew Thursday nights, that was family night. Don't call us. Don't get sick on that night. Don't die on that night. Don't have a baby on that night. Not if you want us to be a part of it. Because there were things that we did, places where we dated. That was the one night in a crazy, crazy, crazy week that we knew that we could carve out, and we looked forward to it. And we rested and we completely disconnected from the real and crazy world around us. We fast forward now, almost 35 years later, what has kept us sane and together and still very passionate about the work is that because we controlled our boundaries, the work did not control us. And so almost 35 years later, we love the work more. We've seen great fruit, but we have also taken care of ourselves. Hey, find a leader, an influencer, a parent, someone who's done something really well for a lot of years, and ask them, how did you take care of yourself so that the work would not wear you out? Don't just ask someone because they're older. Ask someone who you think that over the years they've gotten better, like vintage cheese or wine or something. Look at someone who's doing something and they've been doing it for a long time and they're still enjoying it and they're getting better at it. Ask, how did you take care of yourself? Or what things did you not do that you wish you had done? Also talk to people who are not finishing well. They've given everything to their careers. They've given everything to work, but they haven't really taken care of themselves. Ask them, what do you wish you had done differently? In what ways do you wish you had taken care of yourself? Because not only do transformational leaders learn from examples of success, we also learn from examples of failure or missed opportunity, we'll call them. Hey, I hope this helped you. I take every August off. Now, again, I've been in my line of work for 35 years. I'm running organizations that I've started. I save my vacation up because I can do that. I've earned the right to do that because I've been at these places for over 30 years or nearly 30 years for one, over 30 years for another. Everyone can't do that. But I know I need a week just to decompress and then the next week to have fun. But it's taken me a long time to find that rhythm. And let me tell you, in the early days, people were upset that I was gone that long. And well, why does he get to take that off? And so things started slipping, but I just kept building systems to sustain the work while I was gone. Because I knew that even though I hated that things would sort of trail off while I was gone, I knew that I would trail off if I stayed. And my health was more important to me than my organizations. Now we're at a place where I'm watching things thrive when I'm away, and leaders are rising up and they're taking good control of the effort. But that's what transformational leaders do. I'm telling you these secrets so that you don't have to wait 35 years before you can rest or take some time off. I want you to develop these skills now because I think the work is more demanding today than it was 35 years ago. And we need you to be in this for the long haul, whether it's at the current organization where you work or not. We need people with your heart, your authenticity, your integrity, and your drive. We need you in this work. So I hope this spoke to you. I hope that it helps you to think about the way transformational leaders care for themselves, because in doing so, you really, really, really care for others. And remember, secure your own mask first. Then you can help those beside you who are in need of assistance. Thank you so much for listening to the Transform Your Leadership podcast. I hope that this has been helpful to you. I have really enjoyed sharing these thoughts and these insights.